All right, now we're going to talk about is breaking down an opponent in the 4-3 system. This is something I take a lot of pride in. Something that is as a football coach. That's why I love coaching defense because offenses take all this time to develop their schemes, and they're going to run what they run, and it's up to us. We got to be able to defend everything. They can come out in multiple sets. They can change their offense, but as a defense, we got to be sound in anything we see: shift, motion, 2x2, 32 personnel, wishbone, whatever it is, flexbone, wing tee, spread offense, no huddle. So many things offenses can do. But as a defensive coach, as a defensive coordinator, you have to be ready for that. So that all starts with preparation and being able to break down your opponent. It's something that just takes time. You learn over time. You got to be prepared for everything. My old high school coach back in the days was one of the most prepared guys. We were prepared for every situation possible, and that's something that I took from him years ago. So first couple things here, and then we'll look at some sheets. But we want to make them left-handed, and I think this goes without saying. We want to take away what they do best. So if it's a 21 personnel team and they have a tailback that's just a stud, well, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that tailback doesn't have success on a Friday night. We're going to make them left-handed per se, make them do something else. We're going to make them throw the ball. We're going to make the quarterback run it. We're going to make somebody else run it because we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that tailback, all right, doesn't do his thing. That's what they're hanging their hat on. That's what they want to do, and they're going to try to do it. So you have to be able to take that away from them. So that's their best player. Take them out of the game, right? If it's a receiver, say it's a 10 personnel team and they have a stud receiver, Division I kid, big timer. Well, you better figure out a way to double him, right? You better figure out a way to beat him up. You better figure out a way to prevent him to have a release off the line of scrimmage and have somebody behind him. If they can come in and that kid has a big night, then in my opinion, you didn't do your job as a defensive coach. Take away what they do best. Make them beat you another way, right? I'm okay if we're playing a team and I take away their best guy and they have another guy that steps up and does a great thing, or a combination of guys, then I'm okay with that. They beat us, all right? But I'm not going to let them let their stud, all right, have a night on us. If that's a run play, pass play, whatever it is. An example of a run play could be a 2x2 set, and they love running inside zone. Well, I'm going to have 4 or 5 different ways to be able to scheme up inside zone so that we're in advantageous situations, and they can't have success with that play. So, again, make them left-handed. Make them do something they're not used to. Make them beat you with what they're not good at. All right. Again, that could be a stud quarterback throwing the ball. That could be a tailback. It could be a receiver. It could be running behind a certain side of the offensive line. If they're great at running behind their left side, well, make sure they can't run that way. All right. It all starts with that. When you're playing a team, we all start with that and making them left-handed or making them beat you with what they're not good at. Second thing, we study the crap out of formations. Okay, formations, in my opinion, are our team's blueprint. Now, with that being said, you play 2 types of teams. Some teams come out in minimal formations, all right? No huddle teams, air raid teams, 10 personnel teams can only line up, a couple ways, right? 2x2, 3x1, maybe empty. But then you get into what's popular nowadays is the 11 personnel teams that try to formation you, right? They'll come out 11 personnel and they'll line up in 42 formations, a night. And then you have these other teams that'll line up in certain formations, 1 or 2, 3 formations, but then they'll window dress them, they'll shift, they'll motion, things like that. So, but at the end of the day, you have to find what their top formations are. If they are a team like that, if they run a bunch of them, well, then within that formation, you got to find out the different nuances, and that's the second point there, the different nuances within that formation. So they might run 42 formations a night, but that core offensive line, that core back, that core fullback or H-back, if they have one, because it's probably 11 personnel, they're lining up. There's only so many ways they can line up. They can go unbalanced or put guys different places, motion and whatever, but that core is going to stay the same. I guarantee if you study it, those plays they're running are the same plays. All right, yeah, that's what you hear all the time. They're going to run power and counter, but they're going to window dress it and formation you 40 sometimes, but run power and counter. So you got to break that down to the nuance and where's that fullback and tailback lined up? Is he deep? Is he shallow? Is he tight? Is he wide? Et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it comes down to with that. The back level I talked about. So again, teams, it's not rocket science. Where they put the back, where offenses put the back, dictates what they're doing. Now they're getting smarter. Now they're a lot of teams are putting him in the pistol, and then snap of the ball, or right before the snap, they move him down because we study: is it back strong, back weak? Is the back up? Is he even? Is he behind the quarterback? Is the fullback, the sniffer, the H back? Is he tight? Is he wide? Is he back? Is he up? So all that stuff, we are studying that, and we code all that into our huddle breakdown. All right, I just talked about the fullback, tight end, H-back placement. What about wide receiver splits? That's very important too. Wide receivers do things for specific reasons. They line up normal, just say a normal split. Okay, that's fine. But whenever they tighten up a little bit, why do they tighten up? They're probably tightening up to run out routes, to maybe run a comeback to give them room out there. If they tighten way down, well, why are they doing that? Again, they're probably running some sort of crossing route. They're doing it for a reason. They're not just lining up haphazardly, tighter than normal. All right, they're doing it for a specific reason. So it's up to you as a defense coordinator to break that down. We study the offensive lineman. You know, we break down every single offensive lineman. I'll give my defensive staff. Everybody has a position. They study him, and along with the other stuff they do. But they'll study the guy maybe on pass plays. And this is crazy that they do it, but certain teams you'll study pass plays, you know, their guys are up and run plays are down. You can study the hand, you know, if their hand's down, are they up on their fingertips? Are they down? And you can see the whites of the knuckles. You can see the whites of the knuckles, and they're putting weight on it. They're firing out. All right, so there's little things like that, and I know that's no secret, but study that and code that, chart that, and then let your data speak for itself. We break down, I believe it's 53 fields every single play that we study. So if we play a team on Friday night, we'll break down 3 games on them, and every play they run, 53 fields. Now, do we use all 53 fields? No, but it's broken down in case we need to look at that. And then finally, quarterback mannerisms. These guys, they run the show, so they all have their own kind of signature. What do they do on certain plays? You know, does he lick his fingers when it's a pass? Does he always look a certain way? Is there a rhythm to where he looks? Is he always where he looks last? Is that the side he's going to throw to? You know, when it's a run play, is he tapping his hip or doing something like that? Is he saying any signals he's giving to his guys? Maybe when he signals, that's when he's throwing, you know, quick game or whatever it is. But study the quarterback. You'd be surprised what you're able to get from that. All right, kind of on to tendencies. I just touched on this. We use huddle, which I'm sure primarily most of the people use. Whatever you do, use to break down. If you're not using a software to break down your data, then I think you're at a huge disservice. But whatever it is, you know, like I said, we break down 52 fields per play. As far as tendencies goes, we really don't pay attention to any tendencies. It's not a tendency for us unless it's 75% or higher. So whether that's run pass, if that's run to the strong side or weak side, is that run to the good offensive lineman or opposite the good offensive lineman? Is that hash mark tendencies? Is that down and distance tendencies? Whatever it is, we really don't count it unless it's 75% or higher. Now, with that being said, when it is 75% or higher, we play the tendency. Right? I love those odds. I think offenses do a good job of self-scouting, but when it comes down to it and it's 3rd and 2 and the offense needs a first down, or it's 3rd and 8 and the offense needs a big conversion, guess what? They're going to call what they're good at, and it's probably that tendency. So we're gonna live by those until they take us out of them. All right, and then finally in the second half, I think you have to plan for that. When I call the offense, and our offensive coordinator now, I make sure he does this. We always have something in the second half that we haven't shown in the first half. So always keep that in mind and be ready for that. That way we come out, the staff can't take the time and go in and adjust. Now they'll be able to go on the sideline with the iPad technology now, but it's still not the same as being able to go in halftime and adjusting. So we always save something there for them to figure out. Data breakdown. So again, the fields that we break down. Again, when you do this, it's overwhelming. So 52 fields. What we do is we delegate to our staff. So as a defensive staff, there's 5 of us. Give or take, roughly, everybody has about 10 fields. It's a little bit left because we do huddle assist, so we send it off, and I think like 8 or 9 come back. All your, down distance, yard, hash, all that stuff comes back already. But everything else, I mean, from coding, where does their best receiver line up on a play? Is he the left number 1, the left number 2? Is he in the backfield? We break down anything. The fullback which fullback? Teams have a calling card. If number 42 fullback's in the game, maybe that's the guy they throw to. But if number 32 is in the game, maybe that's the fullback that they run behind. Okay. Break down as much as you can. Do the front end work, and then you'll be much better off when you're playing that game or you're preparing for that game. But again, back to breaking it down, delegate to your staff. For me to sit down and say, I'm going to do 50 fields per play, that would take me 4 hours. But if I need to do 10 fields, and it's the same fields week after week after week after week, then I can get 3 games done in about an hour. All right, it's easy. And if all my staff does that, we all do that on the weekend digitally from home, then we get our stuff done that we need to do. All right, be smart about what you give each coach to break down. We all have coaches on our staff that are maybe a little smarter than others, maybe a little more into it than others. Let's face it, we're not all getting paid a lot of money for this. So, some of us are really, really into it and some aren't. So on my staff, I know the guys that I give the important fields to, or what I consider important. And I have certain fields that aren't as important, and I'll give those to the guys that might not be as attention to detail as the others. So be smart about who you give those fields to. And in huddle, it's very easy. You give each person their own column. So I have Bob's column and Jared's column and Brock's column, and all they do is click on that. It has their 5 or 8 or 10 fields. So when they pull up the game versus Central Catholic, boom, they've got 10 fields. All right, left hash, -32, run play, power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they can fly through it that way. Again, I kind of mentioned a lot of front-loaded work, but then it makes your Friday nights a lot easier. And the last thing I would say is the data, you got to make sure it's accurate. That's one thing. Data is only as good as how accurate it is. If you have bad data, then you're going to get bad info. So you got to make sure the data is accurate. That kind of goes back up here to being smart about which coach you give, the important stuff to. All right, personnel. So I kind of use this Superman analogy. So what does Superman do? He's dressed up like a businessman, walking around, faking everybody out, but all of a sudden he goes into a phone booth and changes into his Superman outfit. Well, that's kind of how I equate to personnel, right? Offenses come out in certain personnel. They'll come out in 10 personnel and be this offense. But all of a sudden they bring an H-back and a tight end. Well, now they're going to turn into this offense. They run certain plays. They like certain plays from certain personnel. So break down the personnel, whether it's 11 or 10 or 12 or 21 or 22. That should all be broken down and studied. And if you actually break it apart, more times than not, that personnel definitely tells their personality within that personnel. All right, more times than not, although it is becoming popular, that a lot of teams are trying to stay in, say, 11 personnel and run everything from it. But with that even being said, when the H-back's tight and they're in this formation, they're running 2 or 3 different plays. But when he's wide, they're doing 2 or 3 different plays. They still have a personality kind of within that personnel. All right. And kind of like I mentioned, offenses do things for a reason. They don't just tell their guys, hey, line up where you want, and we're going to run this play and try to get that. No, it's very specific, very detailed, depth of the back, width of the tight end, wide receiver splits, everything they do for a reason. So it's up to us to study that, break it down, and develop a plan. And that's why I love coaching defense, because that's what you got to do. All right, some situations that we want to study. I think a lot of these are fairly obvious. But we study the heck out of the red zone because, again, in my opinion, yards don't matter. All that matters is points. So when teams get in the red zone, they're in the scoring area or getting close to it. So we want to make sure we get them out of the red zone or stop them in the red zone. So we study the heck out of red zone. What are their tendencies? Do they like to run? Do they pass? Do they run to the bench? You'd be surprised. A lot of teams we play that they'll be on the hash mark and they'll run to their bench because their coach is right there and he can watch it. He doesn't like to run to the other side. So study that. Do they run to a certain lineman? Do they run? What's their rhyme or reason? All right. We study the heck out of goal line. Okay. What do they like to run in goal line? Most teams, most offenses, when they get to the goal line, they run their best 1 or 2 plays, period. So if that's power, if that's counter, if that's inside zone, if it's outside zone, whatever it is, be prepared for that. Have 2 or 3 plans to stop that play of theirs, because that's what they're going to run when they get down there. Pass plays in the goal line, pretty simple. Pick plays, rub plays. So you got to make sure if you're in man-to-man, you can handle that. A lot of teams try to isolate their best guy, whether that's throwing a fade. More popular nowadays, they move their best guy inside and try to isolate him on a linebacker because they're anticipating defenses playing man-to-man, so they can run different little double moves, whip routes, whatever it is. We study openers. I think openers, and then what's an opener? That's the first play of a series, a drive coming out of half, first play of the game. It's where they're coming off the sideline and they come out. So this is where you'll see, I think, in my opinion, a lot of trick plays, a lot of movement, a lot of shifts, motions, etc. Because they can actually sit there on the sideline and talk. And hey, Bobby, I want you to do this. Make sure you tighten up and make sure you sell this. You know, a lot of double moves, hitch and goes, sluggos, stuff like that. But study that. And you know, your first down, second down, third down, fourth down, we have to actually create a column called opener. So we have our 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, 10 openers a game that we study for each team. All right, third down obviously is where your money's made. You know, I think first down is most important because it gets you to an advantageous third down. But third down, end of the day, you got to get off the field. So study third down. Obviously, the longer the yardage is, the better off for you, the better tendency for you. But third and short, again, we treat third and short very similar goal line. I think they're the same zone. Third and short goal line, they're going to run their best plays. If that's power, if that's counter, whatever it is, again, have a plan for that. Trick plays. What are their trick plays? Some teams don't run any. Some teams run a lot. All right, I'm sure they have a bunch in their repertoire. I think how do you, if you're trying to come up with trick plays and they haven't shown any, what are their best plays? And then what can they do off it to trick you? If their best plays, you know, power, well, you can probably imagine they have a flea flicker coming. They're going to hand off power, and then he can pitch it back and they can throw it, right? Play action off power. Obviously, play action, maybe a double move. The inside zone, they could run some sort of inside zone, bootleg, you know, throwback, all kinds of crazy stuff. They're a formation team, and they change formations a lot. Well, there's all those trick plays where, you know, the New England Patriots made famous where they can hide a tight end in a tackle spot, makes your receivers off the ball, and now he's eligible to go out for a pass. So stuff like that. Study that, and at least have your kids prepared for that to be, you know, not to give up a big play. And then finally, another big one we study is coming out. So when you have them backed up, what are they going to do? Are they a team that's going to likely try to take a shot? This is a situation where a lot of offenses will go on 2 or a hard count, try to get you to jump off sides to get that free 5 yard, because again, they don't have much to lose if they're on their 2 yard line. If they jump off sides, well, it's a half yard or half the distance. But if we do, they get to move out closer to a first down. So again, very important area of the field to study. That'll help you be successful. Opposing players, and I touched on this at the beginning. Again, we assign each of our staff members certain players on their offense to study, because again, I think this can really do you some justice. This is high school football. You know, we don't all, like I said, not everybody can recruit, the public schools at least. And long story short, they're going to have some good offensive linemen, some bad. They're going to have some good receivers and some bad ones. Same with the running backs. So study that. Who are their best guys? All right, the best guys are who they're probably going to try to get the ball to, and then who are their worst guys, so that we know, heck, that's people we can attack. You know, if they have a receiver that's not very fast or not very good, well, we can put our worst guy on him. You know, if they have a D lineman or an offensive lineman that's not very good, well, that's a guy we're going to try to blitz over or maybe attack there. All right, do they have a fumbler? Do they have a guy that doesn't hold on to the ball? You know, study that and let's make sure we practice that and make sure everybody on our team knows that, you know, the second, third guy in there, we're ripping that ball out. Quarterback, talked about this a minute ago, but what's his indicator? What's his cadence? Study that so we know we can get off and time things up when we blitz. Any of our pre-snap movement, get an indicator. So when that snap's about to happen, we can move. What's the indicator for our DBs? So we're ready to roll or spin into any of our coverages if we are disguising. And then kind of like I touched on earlier, the offensive line, do they have any tendencies? You know, you should probably have your defensive line coach study their offensive linemen. You know, hands up or down. Are they in a 2-point? Or are they in a 3-point? Or Is the weight heavy on their hand, or are they light on their hands? So again, other things that you can definitely study there to help you give some success while breaking down an opponent. Now we're going to go and look at some ways that we do that. Now we're going to look into breaking down an opponent here. This is our hit chart. So this is things after we did all the data in huddle. Well, what do we do with that huddle? So now we got to be able to, as a coaching staff, break that down and kind of show our kids and be able to teach our kids, present it to our kids so that they can learn it in an easy way. So quickly, I'll go through this, but personnel, we break down personnel, 21, 11, 10, 12, 31. Sets, they're 2x2 set, 3x1 set, 2x1, 46% of the time. And then down here, we put some tips. You know, there's a level 3 back, well, it's 95% pass. Well, that's pretty good in my eyes. So we're studying that. Whenever that back's in front of the quarterback, then we're all going to be alert and pass. 3x1, 2x2, they are 100% pass. So anytime they're in a 3x1 or 2x2 10 personnel set, which they weren't a lot, well, 37% of the time, it was pass. All right, that's good to know. Twins open, and so if it's twins open and the fullback was on the weak side away from the formation, they love tunnel screen. When they were in tight end slot with the fullback to the tight end, again, 100% run. So we would actually develop our defense, develop our game calls off these tendencies. So if they come on that set, we're going to run a defense or a blitz or a movement that's advantageous to stop what they're doing. Here's the last one, 2 tight ends. They love gadgets. So they'll bring 2 tight ends. Why? Because they want to protect. So they're going to run their flea flicker, maybe their double pass, double, triple, reverse pass, whatever it is. So here's some hit charts that we do. And again, there's 1, 2, 3. These are all their formations. So there's 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 formations. Now, I'm sure they ran more formations than this, but we're only going to go their top 6, 7 formations that they run numerous times. If they have 3 that they run a lot, and then 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 that they run once or twice, one-offs, we're not really going to worry about. We're going to stop what they do best. We're going to take their top formation, and we're going to live and die on that. So let's just look at this quick. And this is probably not a good example, but when they throw the ball, trips open, they ran 34 times. And this is 11 personnel up here. So this guy right here is an H-back that they split out. But long story short, it was 100% pass, which is crazy. So we knew that going into the game. Here's some of our calls that we would do, and we would take these hit charts into our game plan meetings with my staff, and we'd sit down and we develop our calls here. What do we like out of our base? What do we like out of our 3 down? Here's the passes they ran. They ran a curl flat. So curl flat over here with a comeback here 10 times. All right. They ran drive with a comeback 4 times. They ran flood, sprint out. All right, 4 times. Seam, stick, so etc. You're coding all that. And then when I go to this is how then as a coordinator for practice, when we go to draw up their cards or however you do your scout cards, we take their maybe top 2 or 3 plays or passes out of each formation, take their top 2 or 3 runs out of each formation, and that's how we get our scout cards. Again, we're already going to practice what they do best. I'm not going to run, for instance, here. I'm not going to practice the K route out of Twins Open because they ran it 1 time in 3 games. Okay, we're going to practice what they do best and take that away. So Twins Open, 11 personnel again, so they just brought that guy that was out here in the last set, brought him in. This is what we want to do. 60% pass. Not high enough for me to kind of, really tell our kids about that. But what do they do out of that? All right, they love counter. They love inside zone, outside zone, a little bit of everything. I'd say counter is probably their favorite, obviously. So we're going to have a plan for that. And then tunnel, if the F is weak. So all of a sudden, when this F is over here to the weak side, they love tunnel. So I made sure my boundary backer knew that. All right, and then the pass routes they ran, again, what they do the most of, that's what we're going to practice, and that's what we're going to take away. Last part here, breaking down the opponent. I'm going to show you kind of what we do on huddle, what the fields actually mean. Again, we break down most of these. We have all these fields, and we don't necessarily do them every game. It's based on the team you're playing. Again, if they're a multiple tight end team, multiple fullback team, do they do certain things with fullbacks? If they're a spread team, you want to study the receivers a little bit. So whatever you think can give you an advantage, you can do. So obviously quarter, ODK, series. We coach series based on how many series do they get a game. That's more for a self-scout. So we know how many series a game we're facing. Okay. What's the situation? All right. So situations, I like to code these 2-minute, 2-point play, end of game. Is it a goal line, last play, red zone, scrubini, which I found from heard that one from a friend, but basically that's, at the end of the game, if a team's blowing somebody out, do you really need to code that data? I always kind of battled that. You're really going to put that into your data when they sit there and run 28 run plays at the end of the game because they're beating them 59. So we code that as Scribini so we can take that out of the data. All right, down distance, obviously hash. All right, there's our yard line run plays, a runner pass. And a lot of this, again, comes back. These first ones come back from huddle assist. And again, huddle assist is a great thing. And if you don't do it already, it saves you a lot of time. What's the gain or loss? All right, result. All right, we do that. Personnel, set. All right, personnel is obviously 10, 11, 12, whatever. Set, again, is it a 1x1, 2x2, 3x1 formation? All right. Next one, formation. Obviously, we want to be as specific with these as possible. Break them down as much as you can because then later you can group them together. If you're too general at the beginning, you'll go back through the week and have to break them down. So break them down to the bare bones at the beginning, and then you can suck all the data in later. Backfield set. Is it gun strong? Is it gun weak? Is it gun split? We have different codes for if the backs are stacked, if the backs are split, all right, etc. All right, what's the placement? What's the placement of the back? This is more for a fullback type body. But is the fullback strong, weak? Is he on the, to the field, to the boundary? Is he a sniffer, near, far, whatever you want to call it? Motion. Obviously, got to have a name for all the motions they do, and what do they mean? Level the back, behind them, even in front of them. Is it fib, formation to the boundary? I want to know that. Teams that put their formation, put trips into the boundary are very, very specific why they do that. So I'm going to code, is it fib? And fib is simply a yes or no. All right. QB run. All right. That's simply just for me, is it a quarterback run play? Was it quarterback power? Was it quarterback counter? All right. Because I just want to get an idea for a team if they're a big run team there. Offensive play, obviously, again, as specific as possible. All right. Run to fullback. Again, this is a simple yes or no. Did they run behind the fullback? At the end of the day, most teams that have a fullback run behind him because he's there for a reason. They want to run that way, and that's just a good tendency for us. What's the play strength? That's pretty self-explanatory. Play direction. Which way to go, left or right? All right, let me scroll over here. All right. RPO. What was the RPO on the front side? Because a lot of teams are RPO two ways. 3x1. What was the concept? Was it bubble? Was it stick? Backside. What was the RPO backside? Was it a hitch? Was it a glance? Was it an out? All right. Gap. So what gap did they go? A, B, C, or D? All right. Protection. All right. We use our offensive terminology. What protection is it? Is it full slide, half size? Is it bob? Whatever they do. Play tree. I thought this one's awesome. What type of play? Is it a boot? Drop back pass, draw, is it a gadget play? So at the end of the day, you can go to the play tree. What's this team do? Oh, they have 8 gadget plays, all right? Or they have 42 gap scheme plays, all right? So again, just getting a good identity of the team. Offensive strength, which way did they run, all right? What was the penalty? All right, route thrown. All right, so yeah, they ran curl flat, but what route did they throw? All right, they threw the curl route, or they ran smash. Yeah, but what route did they throw? The corner? Or did they throw the hitch? Okay, passing zone. This is an awesome one here too. It's very simply broken down into 9 fields: 3 in the deep, 3 in the middle, 3 in the short. So we just go short left, short middle, short right, medium left, medium middle, medium right, deep left, deep middle, deep right. And after they throw the ball, when the ball was thrown, what zone did they throw to? So at the end of the day, it gives you a nice, pretty picture that if we're playing a team that throws it a lot, we can, draw something up in Excel and highlight the areas that they throw the ball. All right, and we'll make sure that if it's a team that throws the ball to the flat a lot, well, maybe you want to be a lot of trap coverage. If it's a team that throws it deep a lot, well, maybe you want to be in a certain coverage there. All right, star. All right, so we code where is their star lined up. If they have a star receiver, if they have a star tight end, a star running back, and they move him around, we're going to code every single play where they put him because I guarantee when they move him, all right, there's a reason for that. All right, so you want to have a nice tendency on that. All right, tempo. What was their tempo? Are they a tempo team? All right, are they a look team, a team that goes up and set go, fakes the cadence, and then looks to the sideline? Are they a sugar huddle team? Again, not every team does a lot of tempo. So some games you won't code this, but if it's a no huddle team, you will. All right, last couple deep shot. How many deep shots did they take a game? All right, so I'm going to code it. They throw a deep ball. That's yes or no. Deep shot, yes or no. And I'll be able to know, hey, this team takes approximately 8 shots a game. So we've got to be ready for that. And then finally, we do play some wing T teams, some flex bone teams. So, and there's teams that, again, they have an identity. When they line up in the shotgun, they're throwing the ball. When they're under center, they're running the ball. It sounds pretty obvious, but we're going to code that. Hey, if they're in a shotgun, yes or no. And then finally, the last one, if you're playing a team with multiple quarterbacks, we have a quarterback column. When number 11's a quarterback, well, they throw the ball. When number 4's a quarterback, they run the ball. And again, just coding that. Do the front end work, so at the end, it's easy to just break it down. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. You try to take the shortcut at the beginning and code less. You'll be there sitting there on Tuesday night when you're game planning third down, wishing you would have broke down those 300 some snaps a certain way because you wanted to get that certain tendency to give you the edge. So I hope that helps. That's kind of how we break down an opponent. Preparation is key to success. Do the front end work. But by no means can you do it yourself. You have to make sure you delegate to your staff, make sure they do their job, and the more prepared you are, the more successful you'll be on defense. All right, now what we're going to talk about is practice planning and scripting in the 4-3. So as we kind of alluded to, preparation is a key to success in my opinion. So with that being said, you have to have a very structured practice plan and script. Offensively or defensively, and we'll talk here more defensively, but program-based organization, all that stuff. If you don't have a very specific practice plan, then I think you're kind of going out there lost. So first things first, Google Drive. That's what we use. There's other kinds out there. There's Dropbox, etc. But in this day and age, you have to have a way to share documents, share working documents with your staff and even your team for that matter in certain aspects to be able to be as efficient as possible. So you got to be organized, all right? I'll show you our Google Drive here in a second. Extremely organized, probably upwards of 100 different folders, everything within the program that we need to do, offensively, defensively, program, volunteering, fundraising, weight room stuff, anything you could think about, we keep track in there. Again, it's a shared drive to house all program documents. It is updated live, so we work on those things. We're working on the game plan, and I'm working on the script on the weekend. It's a working document. I can sit in my home on a Sunday, work on it as my DB coach is scripting the pass plays on the same document, and it all works together nice and easy. And it doesn't require you to spend all crazy hours together, wasting time when you do a lot of this stuff on your own. All right. Practice plans, we do our scripts this way, rosters, our game plan that we use on a Friday night. This is all built into one master sheet that we'll look at here in a little bit. Staff meetings. The program that I run, we are family first. And I think, again, in today's age, there's a lot of options, a lot of opportunities for people. I think if it's a grind for coaches, then I think you're not going to have many stay around long. I'm a big believer in family that, we love football and we want to do the best we can and we want to be prepared and diligent, but I think you could do that smartly. I think you could do a lot of the work that we used to do in the office when you used to have the VHS tape and we had one copy and we had to sit there and watch it together. Nowadays, it's not that way. Everything's on huddle. We can do a lot of our work from home. We come in on Saturday mornings early, 7 o'clock. We're out of there by 10 a.m. And then again, we don't see each other again until Monday after school for our first practice. Now, are we working all weekend? Heck yeah, we are. Are we talking and Zoom meetings and different things like that all weekend? Heck yeah, but at least you're at home. You're with your family. I think you have to have a football life balance. Again, we've all heard the expression happy wife, happy life. Well, that definitely comes into play here. And I even think the same thing, happy staff. You're going to have a successful staff. You're going to have continuity in your staff. You treat them the right way. You show them the family is important to you. And I think they're going to get more back in return from your staff. And again, like I mentioned, we don't work on Sundays. I mean, we work, but we don't come into the office. Under those same lines, I think to communicate, we have our working documents or whatnot, but we have a staff group chat. We use GroupMe. You can text message. But you got to have a way to communicate as a staff, whether you're the head coach, the coordinator, talking to the defensive coaches, head coach talking to all of them, whatever it is, just so you're on the same page. Hey, did you see when they line up in this formation, they do this. So in our defensive group chat on the weekend, we're probably throwing 300-400 messages back and forth, just talking about formations, kids, and what they did in this play, and this play, and this play, and what are we going to do to defend this, all that good stuff. But again, it's all housed in one area. We're sharing video clips. We're sharing, we're watching, Ohio State play somebody. Hey, do you see this blitz they ran? And you can quickly put that on there. And again, it's all housed in one spot. All right. Front loaded. So when we're practice planning, when we're scripting, we do all the work up front. We want to work our butts off on Saturdays, breaking down the opponent. Sundays at home, breaking down the opponent, and even into Monday a little bit, getting that practice plan ready, getting our practice scripts ready. Extremely busy at the beginning of the week, but that allows you, as the week goes, to be smooth and ready to go come game time. The last thing you want to do on a Tuesday or a Wednesday is be worried about how you're going to defend this, or line up here, or you did too much here, or you weren't prepared because you just found out about this formation on a Wednesday, versus doing all the work up front and then allowing your team to kind of flow with what you're doing. So again, it all starts being prepared. Your scripts, your practice plans, your scout cards, who's going where. I mean, the more detailed you can make a scout card, the better off, the smoother your scout team will be. I know that's a headache for a lot of defensive coaches. You never think you're getting a good look. Well, take a little more time. Make it easier for the scout kids to read the card. If you're using cards, if you're using go route, whatever it is, color coded. That's something I found out to be very helpful. We color coded. We didn't necessarily put positions X, Y, Z. We use colors: red, yellow, green. Just grab highlighters, so it's a lot easier for a kid to look at a card and see his color. Oh, I'm on the right now, and then they look at the route or the blocking scheme, whatever it is. Those front five never leave, but it's all these skill guys moving around. Again, we make these tough decisions early in the week. All right, we make the tough decisions on Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays, how we're going to defend certain things. Because again, then we have the whole week to practice, and then on Fridays it's easy. I'd rather make the tough decisions in the comfort of my own home and not in the heat of the battle on a Friday night. All right, again, I'm going to study, I'm going to be prepared. So on Friday, it's easy. And if it's not, if we do something that doesn't work, well, at least I can live and die, or I can live with the fact that we prepared. Hey, it didn't work. Let's move on to the next thing. And again, I think that it enables you to be prepared for everything. So practice planning templates. We have templates for everything. So our practice plan, our script, our scout cards are templates, so that we don't need to recreate the wheel every time. Again, it's a shared document. All we do after the week one, we copy all those, put them into week two, erase the data, and start fresh again. Save a ton of time. And again, it's familiar to staff. It's familiar to players. So we put the practice plan in the locker room. Every day the kids know they can go look at it. Hey, it's a 24-period practice. Boom, boom, boom. It's the same format, same deal. Coaches, when they look at the plan and out there in the field, they know where things are at, what period they're supposed to be at. How all of our periods are 5 minutes. We got a timer clock out there that keeps us on track. Music playing, everything's smooth. We try to run as efficient practice as we can. But again, this all starts with kind of having templates and being organized and ready to go. Play count. This is important. Definitely more for the offensive side, I think, but definitely as a defensive coach as well. You want to know how many times you practiced that play, or how many times you practiced that blitz or that stunt or that coverage. They come out in a certain set, and we want to play a cover 3 roll to that, or if we want to play a cover 2 show to that, whatever it is. And I go back and look at my practice script and see that, heck, we only practiced cover 2 times all week. But then on Friday night, we're asking them to play it 32 times. Well, that was bad on my part. All right, we need to prepare for that. We need to make sure our kids practice that throughout the week. Now, I know you can't control what an offense is going to do, but in your preparation, you can control how many times you practice that blitz pattern. You know you're going to blitz, and you're going to do this pattern. Well, you better practice it before you run it. You can't expect your kids to be successful at it if you don't practice it. All right? And then the game plan becomes clear as the week goes. So again, if you're doing things and it's not looking good by Tuesday, and then Wednesday you run it again and your defense just isn't getting it, well, then you can scrap it. And we're not going to do it. If you can't do it in practice, we're not going to do it in the game. So those are some things there to think about when you're practice planning, when you're scripting. So I pulled this up. This is actually our practice plan from this past season. Definitely very in-depth, very detailed. Takes a lot of time to do, but once you have it set up, then again, it's just kind of copy and paste from week to week. So looking at the top, we put the date, obviously, who we're playing, what we're wearing, any practice notes. Now, this is for me as the head coach. This could be it's for you as a coordinator, whatever it is. Hey, we got films afterwards. Sophomores are cleaning the field up. Make sure we dress warm. It's getting cold. Over here's our kind of theme of the week. We have core values that we do every week, and we put all that up there. So anything you want to add. So this first one, period 1 through 4, is again, each period's 5 minutes. You can see the time over here. We start practice at 3:15, and this time we ended at 5:15. So it's a 2-hour practice. All right, the first part being our pre-practice special teams. All right, we warm up, pat and go, and then we do our kickoff return. Over here, our offensive line, our defensive line are doing some indie work. Our quarterbacks are getting some snaps, all their indie work, getting that out of the way at the beginning. But again, everything down to the minute, exactly what we're doing. All 75 kids, 100 kids in the program, whatever it is, have something to do. All right, here's our offensive plan. Again, broken down into positions: O-line, running backs, quarterbacks. We have our inside receivers. We have our outside receivers. All right, what are you going to do? All right, we have our indie periods. We have a little millennial Oklahoma, which is the bubble type stuff that you've seen made popular. We do our hook and noose. Then we have our team periods: team run, team screen, team pass, team red zone. Again, this changes weekly. These periods based on who we're playing, what we're doing. On the defensive side of the ball, all right, same deal. We have a D-line, inside linebackers. We have our Falcons. We have our safeties, and we have our corners. That's our 5 position groups. All right. And again, what are you going to do that week? What are we going to prepare for? We have our FAA, which is our formation, alignment, assignment. All right. We do this every single day. We do a pursuit drill within that as well. So we want to pursue the ball. This is late in the season. Early in the season, we would technically do like a turnover circuit of some sort, a block destruction circuit of some sort, but this is our championship game. We do some 10 minutes of indie, so you can see very specific run fits here, certain formations. Right here's a 7-on-7 deal with our back end. These guys are repping a certain stunt that we were going to do, and then down here two team periods. This team was very specific to some only running 3 formations that we really needed to stop, so that's what we practice. We're not going to practice a lot of one-offs, etc. And then down here on this side is the actual scripts that I already have made that mimics the scout cards that they're going to go. So again, 7-on-7, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pass plays, because the majority, they might have ran 32, but the 6 top ones, that's all we're going to practice. Here's their 2 team periods. Here's the calls we're going to go. A lot of our calls are auto checks. And over here, here's me as a coach, my auto checks based on the formation they come out in, based on who's lined up where, and we have our auto checks. Finally, go over to huddle. All right, and this is kind of a similar thing, but this is where I build our defensive scripts. So if you look here, this is our inside period. We'll go back here. Here we go. So here's our inside period. There's our team pass. There's a 7-on-7 period. So click on that. I put their top plays in based on formation. So if you click by formation, duo power wrap. So it has all these formations. You can see a lot of overlap. We're already going to practice their top plays. And then down here in huddle, this is where we draw them up. And then after I draw them up, after I print them out, I'll actually take these and I'll color code them. All right, I don't have a color printer. Some of you might, and that's fine. Well, then if you have a color printer, well, then you can just color them right here. I take a highlighter and I'll highlight him red. I'll highlight, the quarterback green. Maybe the tailback is orange. Maybe the fullback is purple. Maybe the one tight end up here, he's blue, and maybe this other tight end up here is black. So that now this is a great tip when you're looking at scout cards. Now these kids, again, whether you have a color printer or whether you don't, it's a lot easier to look at that than look at letters. And again, the more detailed you can make these plays, the better. After I print them out, I'll actually take a pen then and write little cues. Maybe for this motion guy, hey, short motion, make sure you stop at the tackle. All right, tailback, make sure you're in the pistol, but make sure you're real tight. If it's a set where this receiver, where they're running a little waggle bootleg, make sure you cheat your split in, and I'll write that down so when the kids look at it, they can actually see that. So again, that's kind of how we handle it. We handle our scripts. We'll print those out. We'll make the scout cards. And I think the moral of the story is only practice or really focus on practicing and scripting what they do best. Don't waste your time doing stopping a play they ran one time. I think if you do that, then you'll have a lot more success on defense.
In developing a call sheet in the 4-3 dynamic defensive system. This is my 8th year as head football coach at Pine Richland, 4th as defense coordinator. I started my career off, as you guys know, as an offensive guy, and since been over on the defensive side of the ball. And I think having that vantage point from both sides really has been helpful. But let's dive right into it. There's some good stuff here. This is something I'm passionate about. With kids, with your players, year in, year out, you're going to have, some really good players some years, and some years, not so much. But I think the consistent or the constant thing that you could have is the preparation, right? And the game plan and having your kids prepared. And that's something that we take a lot of pride in here at Pine, is that we feel we're, always going to be very well prepared, not just myself and my staff, but I think the important thing is the players are prepared. It doesn't matter how much I know. It really, all that really matters is what the players know and can go out there and do and accomplish on a Friday night. My contact info. So a couple things, and we're going to start more kind of the game planning, beginning of the week, and then throughout the course of a week, use of huddle, etc. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up the game film. I think this is critically important. This is probably some of the stuff that's not so fun, right? This is stuff that, in colleges, a lot of schools have GAs that do this. But in high school, unless you're at a big time program that might have some student assistants that help you, you got to do the work, or maybe at least you and your staff. And that's something that we do here. I delegate a lot of this cutting up of the film. When I say cutting it up, obviously during the game, it's clipped and all that stuff. You send it off the huddle. That's all great. But we cut it up. We get it all coded. I do X number of columns. My D line coach does X number of columns. My linebacker coach, my DB coach, we all kind of take portions of it. Obviously take what's important. I take what I feel is important to me. My D line guy, I put him in charge of protections. My DB guy, he's in charge of pass routes and coverages and all that stuff. Then eventually we'll share the film with the players. I'll go into that later. Scouting the opposing team, obviously, is kind of what we're going to get into here. We'll then meet with the staff to discuss the game plan for the week. We'll design the game plan then from that data that we get, right? We're not just going to go in there blindly and design a game, but we're going to design the game plan based off of what we see, based off of the data that we, kind of get from breaking down the team. Then we got to organize practice. Right. And a lot of this is done on Saturday and Sunday and Monday. Those are the busy days. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday become easier and easier as the week goes. But making the scout cards, and we use Go Route here, which is incredible, which really helps with scout team and practice. And then again, studying the percentages, and I'll go into that a little bit as we get going here. Here's a cool diagram. Basically, the schematical kind of breakdown of statistical analysis. So immediately after the game's played, right? I'm sorry, the game before the game's played. All right, we got to label all the plays, and that's what I said. We label up to 45 to 55 columns per play, right? We usually break down 3 games per opponent, and not every play we're breaking down all 40 of those. We probably average a minimum of 30, and then depending on who you're playing, if it's a wing T team, if it's a air raid team, if it's a 11 personnel team, there's a bunch of different special categories that we would label to help us get some data from that. So then we want to data organization and manipulation. That's where you want to organize it. You got to, you can sort it. It's just like Excel. That's all Huddle is. I like to do as much by hand as I can. I love reports, and reports are great, but I have my own way to do it, and I'll show you here in a minute. And again, it's not revolutionary. I learned this from my high school coach, kind of coming up through and kind of continue that. Huddle has made it easier for sure to be able to click and see video attached to data, but you need to manipulate that. Hey, on 1st and 10, backed up, what do they do? P and 10. All right, what do they do? You can easily, at a click of a button, do that and organize that. Then we want to get that out to the coaches, all right, develop our game plan, get that out to the players, develop reports, and then be able to get that back to the kids. So that's just a good little visual of kind of the process there. All right, so our opponent, what are their favorite runs, right? What are their favorite passes? We can't defend everything they do, right? I'm a big, big believer in playing the percentages, taking away what they do best. You've seen the previous videos I've done. Take away what they do best, make them left-handed. So we want to defend their favorite runs, their favorite passes, their favorite run action or play action plays. All right, what special plays do they have? All right, you better know who their favorite receiver is, right? That could be as easy as looking in the paper and, getting stats. That could be, having a column. I have a special column in here when we're playing a team with a big-time receiver, and then we'll label not only who the catches, but who had the targets, right? Favorite formations, right? That I think is pretty common sense. We're a big formation-based team. What formations do they run? All right, what are their top formations? Sets. Now, within that formation, there might be 22 different ways, right? Is the X wide, tight? Where's the sniffer? Is he on a wing? Is he tight? Where's the back? Level 1, level 2. There's so many different variations within a formation that you have to decide, hey, are they doing it for a reason, or did the kid just screw up and line up in a different spot? All right. And then you finally make your hit chart from it. And again, Huddle has those. I do mine myself. But again, that's just kind of how I do it. So next thing we'll look at is down and distance. So I think the big thing there is P and 10. All right. What is P and 10? That's possession in 10. And, you could go back and I'd recommend looking at your season. Well, how many P and 10s do you see in a game? All right. And what do? I think offenses have very distinct personalities on P and 10 versus first and 10, right? They're on the sideline, running out. The coach has time to talk to them a little extra. You oftentimes see a lot of shifts, a lot of motions, maybe some shot plays. P and 10, is usually takes on its own personality. So I highly recommend in Huddle coding that different than first and 10. All right. Obviously, normal down and distance. That's your first and 10. That's your kind of second and medium. That's kind of your normal down and distance. Kind of always gets lumped together. It's when the offense is kind of on schedule. Second and long, I think something you got to understand. Third and long, medium, and short, and then obviously fourth and short. And you can, again, your short, medium, long might differ. Third and short for some people, 0 to 3 or 1 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 plus. That all depends on what you guys want to do there. Some other factors to consider is personnel groupings. Are they 10, 11, 12, 21, 22, 23, 30, 31, 32, whatever the personnel grouping is, you got to code that. You got to understand that, especially in today's game. All right. Again, a lot of teams we play have distinct personalities in different personnel groupings. 22 comes on, they do this stuff. 10 comes on, they do this. Easy. But then there's some teams nowadays, which is very, very hot, is they'll come out in 11 personnel and line up in every formation known to man, which is a little more difficult. I shouldn't say it's more difficult. It's just a different way to code it. All right. Field position, backed up, red zone, middle of the field. There's a fringe. What part of the field do they do what? So you got to look at that data. And again, Huddle does a lot of that for you. If you use Huddle Assist, usually comes back with all that data. It's just a matter of looking at it and breaking it down. And again, in Huddle's reports, they have some field position stuff there, but I just tend to kind of search it myself and do it myself the old-fashioned way. Score differential. A team's going to be themselves until the score's out of hand. Well, careful when you're coding teams. What are they doing when the game's 35-0 and it's out of hand, and all of a sudden, they hand off, power 28 times at the end of a game, and you get your reports back and your data's skewed because 2 of the 3 games that you're coding or you're taking into your coding, they blew out and they have a huge 84% run tendency. Well, that's because they were beating them by 35 points and they ran power just to run the clock out. So make sure you take that into consideration when you're running your reports. All right, time in the game kind of goes into that same thing. The result of a previous play. This is a kind of a thing we've looked at in recent years. After they get an explosive run, after an explosive pass, what's that next play? All right, and again, Huddle's got a cool feature for this. It's built in. Again, I like to just do it myself and watch it and just kind of tally it. After a turnover, the big thing in all football, I don't care what level, hey, they're going to take a shot, right? So do they do that? Maybe they don't. Maybe they did. Maybe they're kind of close to the vest and they just want to get back on track or get on track, start the drive off positively, and maybe they just want to get 4 yards. But again, most teams have a very distinct personality there. And then after a negative, what happens when you get a sack and now it's 2nd and 14? What are they going to do? They're going to run a screen? They're going to try to get half back? They're going to try to get the whole thing back. So studying those different areas in parts of the field. All right, coding games and huddle. Now, again, I kind of talked about some of this stuff. We code the previous 3, sometimes 4. And again, I think the big thing there is trying to make sure that, for us, we're an even front. So the games that we code, we try to code even front teams. Now, if the previous 3 were all odd front, and maybe the 4th one, we'll take that 4th one and put that into the mix, because a lot of offenses run certain plays versus even fronts and different plays versus odd fronts. Some don't, but we seem to think that the better teams do that. So try to code like teams. Okay, if our previous 3 games were 4-3 over fronts, I'm the happiest guy in the world, because I have a good idea of what we're going to get. All right, like I said, divide the duties among the coaches. You try to do it yourself, you're going to get burned out. It's not going to be as accurate. Please make your coaches, I empower them. Hey, you're the D-line coach. You're going to be the best D-line coach around. I expect, you have to have this film broken down, the protections, maybe the run game, code the run play, whatever you want it to be. It's up to you as the defensive coordinator, the head coach. But please delegate and allow them to do some of the work. All right, we work ahead. So again, the previous 3 games. So when we come in on a Saturday playing an opponent this Friday, those 2 previous games were done the week before and then the week before. That way you're not bombarded with coding 3 games in one day. Do a little bit on a Tuesday or a Wednesday when that week's slowing down. And then the next week, do that other game. And that way, when you get to that Saturday ready to play, 2 are done already. All you're doing is that 3rd one. All right, like I said, we do about 40 fields per play. There's special columns. Again, is a quarterback under center? Is he in the gun? Maybe they have 2 tight ends. And the one tight end's a guy they always run behind. The other guy isn't. So code that. Where does their stud line up? Is he at the number 1 receiver? Is he in 1 to the boundary? Is he 2 to the field? Is he line up in the backfield? Some games you code that. All right. And again, huddle assist is a huge, huge help. Of the 40 fields that we code, I think 10 or so, 8 to 10 are come back from huddle, which is nice. All right. And most of the time it's very accurate. Some special columns that we code. Number 1's a passing zone. I got this off somebody online about 5 years ago. So they throw the ball. Yeah, great. They throw flood, or they throw, snag 7. They throw 4 verticals. They throw Y cross. Okay, great. Yeah, I can picture the concept, but where'd they actually throw the ball? Look at the zones there. Deep, right, left, middle. Medium, right, left, middle. Short, right, left, middle. And at the end of the game, you'll see we played a team this year. They threw it, I think, 62 times in the 3-game breakdown. And of the 62 times, I think 48 of them were in the short right and left, which were kind of screen bubble teams. And the other ones were mostly deep. So they were a screen, quick game, take shot team. So our intermediate area, we kind of knew wasn't a big threat that week. All right. Play tree. This is one of the best things that I found. Again, found this from somebody a couple years back. But all right, you're coding your plays, power and counter and 4 verts and blah, 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 blah. But then you put them in a play tree. Power, counter, that's gap scheme, right? Inside zone, outside zone, that's zone scheme. Quick game. So all of your, fade out, your slant arrow, whatever you guys call that, your hitches, that's quick game. So on the play tree, I'd label that quick game. Drop back, any draws, sprint outs, all that stuff. You put that into a family, in a play tree. So at the end of the day, you can hit play tree, and depending on what set they're in, like I said, maybe in 10 personnel, they're a drop back team. But all of a sudden they get in 11 personnel. Now they're a gap scheme play action team. All right, just an easy way to kind of get some information from the stuff you're putting in. I mentioned this one. Where's their star lineup? Maybe they always put him at X, and that's great. And he lines up at X every time. Well, geez, praise to Jesus, because that's awesome, right? That's easy. You know where he's at. You know where he's going to be. You can have a plan. When they move around, it's difficult. So you got to learn when and where they move them and why they move them, and have a plan for that. And then finally, another good one, backside concept. A lot of teams, especially if you're facing spread teams, 3-by-1 teams, the concept is usually to the 3-man side. whatever that is, flood, levels, blah, blah, blah. But on the backside, are you coding what that single guy's doing back there? Because a lot of times you'll label flood or 4 verticals or hitches or slant arrow, whatever you call your stuff, but then back here gets lost. So make a column for that backside route. That way you always know on the backside, hey, they just run you off every play. Okay, great, we know that. Well, they run slant every play or whatever it is, you at least have a plan for it. All right. Now on to kind of the next step. So now we got everything coded, right? It takes a long time. You want to be as accurate as you can. Break it down into as many small parts as you can. Then you can put it all together. So what I use, and I'll jump on Huddle at the end here and show, but we use Huddle Magic Script. So again, doing this for years and years and just being a little OCD with everything and making sure as a defense coordinator we had everything covered versus every look, etc. What we do after I have everything done, you have all 3 games into one big playlist, opponent X with, 3 games, roughly, 160, 180 snaps. We put into Huddle, you hit Magic Script, and bam, based on the formula it takes, it's usually most ran plays, and then yards gained, I think, is the other factor they take in. But long story short, you can see all I'm going to defend is what they do a lot of. I'm not going to defend all these one-off plays, right? I want to defend what they do best. And that's what kind of Huddle comes up with. Now, I do roughly 15 of each, 15 run, 15 pass. And then from there, if I want to run some plays twice or there's plays I don't want, I at least have 15 of 15 drawn up into Huddle. And then what we do with those cards, I'll get into later. But then I can take those and make sure we're putting the run plays in inside run. And I can take some of those same runs and put those down in the team run, or I could take some of those runs and put them over here. But at least they're drawn up. And again, do I use all 15? By no means. No, I might only use 7 of them. If it's, the top one they ran 8 times, and then 6 times, and then 4 times, 3 times, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, down to 15. Well, I might cut a bunch of them. You're wasting your time. Defend what they do best. All right. And then again, like I mentioned, we use the extra ones to create, cards. And again, I'll get into that in a second. Creating a hit chart. So again, I think Huddle has a feature with this. I do it old school. I get all the data. I sit there in Huddle with my mouse, and just like Excel, click the columns, go to the formation, click any little breakdown. Where's the fullback lineup? Where's the tailback? However you're going to label that and call that, and then I put that on a hit chart. All right. Again, I talked about outliers. If they don't do it a lot, I'm not worried about it. I thought we're good enough on base defense. That's what you do in the spring, in the summer, and fall camp. You learn to line up versus everything. All right. You learn to defend, just base plays. And then from there, you can get into stopping what they do best. But again, a tendency, I'm a big believer in a tendency isn't a tendency till it's above 75%. That's where I'll really take a look. And then if it is a tendency, we're gonna play the tendencies until they tell us we can't, right? Running back alignment, fullback alignment, wide receiver alignment is the 1 on the ball is 2 off. If it's 2 on, is 1 off, right? Splits, tailback depth, fullback width, linemen. I mean, we have tags, a column in there for the linemen, and they're splits. Some teams will play, they're really wide over here and really tight here. Well, it probably means this guard's going to pull, so tracking all that stuff, creating a hit chart. And then once you have the hit chart, that's where you sit down as a staff, look at it. Okay, this is what they run. This is the side they run it. What's our plan? Okay. So here's an example of a hit chart. This is kind of the first page versus a random opponent that we had this past year. You can see on the left, I have the personnel kind of labeled up here. So personnel, 11 personnel, 82%. 12 personnel, 21 personnel, 7 and 10 personnel. So you can see if I'm not very smart, I'm going to do all these personnel groupings the same amount in practice. All right, but that's not very smart. That's not very efficient. I got to make sure that throughout the course of the week, most of my practice better be versus 11 personnel, because that's what they do. All right, that's what I need to stop. I really don't care about 10 personnel. They did a 3% over the course of 3 games. That might be, 5 times. There's the sets. All right. So I know 3x1 sets half the time. I better be practicing some version of 3x1 sets that they run half the time. You can see the other breakdowns. And then down here, I just put some tips, right? As I'm going through, I'm making note. Hey, when 2's on the ball in this set, we're going to play this. When our Falcon, read the back level. When he's level 2, all right, then I can really, really reroute the number 2 receiver, because level 2 to us means it's probably pass, which means now he doesn't have to be in the run fit and he can do some other things. All right. Some other little keys here. Again, this is just some ideas we put down going into our game plan meeting that we'll talk about. And then this is a working document. We do everything in Google Drive. You can use Dropbox, whatever it is. So throughout the week, I'm constantly working on this. My staff sees it, and then we'll print this out for the kids, and we'll give them a smaller version, all right, because they don't need to see a lot of the junk. It's when it's finally done that we'll give it to them. So then this is an example of like the next page, so we call it flex or doubles. A lot of people call it. So that's just a 2x2 set. All right, up here you can see it's 10 personnel. Over here, 41 times they ran it. All right, and then down here is the percentage. They were 60% run in this 10 personnel 2x2 set. All right, over here is the pass. All right, whatever you call them. So smash, mesh, lightning. So you can see once it got down to some ones, unless it was something that I was really worried about, I didn't even list it. All right, over here, they're an inside zone team. 10 out of 12 were with orbit motion. Okay, great. Now, if that is something I was concerned about, I would dive into it more and maybe break it down a little bit more, but that was fine. They'd run quarterback ISO 5 times, and when they did that, they were in a level 3 back, which means the back was even or in front of the quarterback. So we know that, and we can do some things to defend that. All right, inside zone, option, and then finally jet sweep. So again, that's just an example of a 2x2 set. Now here's that same game. All right, 3x1 we call trips open. All right, GW, gun weak, so the back's weak. So 3x1 gun weak. All right, same deal. We put our pass over here. We put our run over here. All right, 12 times, 10 personnel, 75% pass. All right, that's all good and well, right? Now, what do they do out of it? All right, well, Denver to us, that's a tunnel screen. All right, so obviously when they were in a gun weak set, tunnel screen is something that they did a lot of, right? That's by far a huge tendency, and then with a level 1 back. So again, just putting notes down, and then as our game plan meeting goes down here out of our base front and our Okie front, I don't have it filled out, but this is what we want to do. Hey, when they're in a level 1 back, we want to play this coverage and we want to do this. All right, if it's a level 2 or 3 back, well, maybe we want to bring a hot pressure and do this because we want to stop this. So whatever your reasoning is as a staff, but those are things that as we're breaking an opponent down that we really, really want to take into consideration. And, that's kind of how we break it down. Hey, some teams, if this guy was on the ball and he's off, maybe we want to play a different coverage because when they do that, they run different routes. Okay. Again, trying to put your kids into an advantageous situation to be successful. And there's another one. This would be the same exact formation, except gun strong. So now the back's on the strong side. So again, a high pass tendency. What they do out of it now? This seems to be more inside zone RPO, right? A little bit of option. And then their pass concepts, drive concept, smash, a screen, 2 other pass concepts there. So again, just the more you break this down, now you study it, you take it. What are your checks going to be? What are they going to do? Here's some possible things. We'll sit down in our game plan meetings as staff, come up with our base call that we're going to do, maybe some auto checks. You can see here, that check is just an auto check for us. They come on this set, we're checking this, period. And then I have some other calls that we can make along the way. Here's an example of a call sheet. So now once you have all that done, I take this previous document, and once we have these calls finalized, I take those over here, and I'm sure everybody has a call sheet. Mine changes not only yearly, but it changes weekly based on who we're playing, based on what they run, right? This is our state championship game, 11 personnel. Here's some 10 personnel. There's our double set. Here's our 3x1 stuff, some game notes, empty checks, all this stuff. And a lot of this stuff doesn't mean much to you, but, here's our auto calls. If they come on this, we're going to do this. Here's some base calls. But you can see the menu is very, very limited, very, I think pretty tight because we want to play fast. I have on here their personnel, how many times they ran it. And there's a huge percentage. Hey, 11 personnel was a big percentage of run. So we need to have some run stoppers on there. We have some base checks. Here's the runs they ran: power 17 times, counter. All right, 2 passes were 4 verts, etc. And you can go across the list there. So I'm a big believer, and I don't like to carry around a big card. I know some people got the big cards. Heck, I find, to be honest, that I spend so much time on this on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, building it and revising it nightly. I'm on it, in through it, changing stuff, scripting practice, coming back to that. This call didn't work, putting it back. That by Friday, I know it. I'll refer to it early in the game, but come second quarter on, unless it's a critical situation, maybe some third down stuff, I'm off that, and I just know it in my head. And to be studying and looking at every call, I don't think you have a chance. I think it's the preparation that goes into it that come Friday night, like your kids, you don't want to be thinking. I don't want to be thinking as coach. I want to know it like that. So when they come out in 3-by-1 gun week, I know our check. I know my top blitz I want to run. Period. I know my coverage I want to maybe as a change up. Hey, if they come out and do this, we want to do this. All right, that's all stuff that I think goes into the week, into the game planning, that makes that makes Friday nights easy. All right, now finally, everything's done. Your scout cards or your hit chart's done. You're building your game plan. That game plan will be done probably Thursday for me. Earlier in the week, and I probably could have put this earlier, but these are the scout cards, right? And this is just a simple thing. I draw them up in huddle. Again, Magic Script spits them out. And again, I'll go to that in a second show. But then we draw them up. And one thing I found when doing scout cards, and we use Go Route, and again, I'll show you at the end kind of what that is, but this would be a general play. And if you look, I found that the more detail you can put on here, the smoother your practices will go. Early on, I might just come out real quick and drop a quick play and say, hey, go run it. Well, it's going to look like crap. If you put crap effort into it, your kids are going to do exactly what the card says, not do it if there's specific things, specific alignments, specific depths, who goes where. Plus, you want to be efficient and run a lot of plays and get a lot of looks. Well, then you better put time into building the cards. So we color code ours depending on who we're playing. We number them. Hey, Bobby, you're the Z receiver. You're number 3 all week. All right. So when he looks at this go route, all he looks is for the orange number 3, and he does what it says. All right. Quarterback, we can give some specific instructions to our quarterbacks. Hey, this is an RPO. We want you to read the Falcon. All right. You can give it or throw it. All right. So he's going to come up, the scout quarterback, very, very specific. All right. Hey, he's going to read them. If he likes it, give it, throw it. If I want him to hand it off, I can tell him. I can put notes in there. So the more specific you can be, the better. Here's an example of another card. Again, color-coded, exactly what to run. The card's got depths on them. Something simple like this, I don't need instruction. Hey, this would mean, hey, come up, catch the ball, throw it to the side you want to. There's very specific cards, though. I'll say, hey, you make sure you throw. If the orange dude's their number 1 dude, throw to the orange dude. Right? That's the guy we want our kids to know to stop, because that's who the other team's going to get the ball to. And again, just a shout out to Go Route. They're awesome. One of the best things we've done. You take those scout cards, you don't need them anymore. All right, they go into a little cell phone, little thing that fits on the belt. Pre-practice, all the work's done early in the week, and then your practices go so much smoother as time goes. But we've gotten so many reps. Tons of colleges are using them, and now we are too. So I'm going to jump to some film here on Huddle real quick, show you a little bit of some of the breakdowns we do. All right, so here we are in Huddle. Just looking at some of the columns. Now, this is a game we played, so doesn't have opponent scouts. So a lot of these aren't filled in right now because this is actually the game we played. So we're not going to fill out a lot of the stuff, but a lot of the columns are here. Okay, so all this stuff early on here. This is all Huddle Assist, but personnel. There's the set they're in. What's set mean? That's 3-by-1, 2-by-2. All right, formation, backfield, placement. What does placement mean? Placement could be, and again, depending on the team you're playing, where's the fullback at? Is he tight? Is he wide? Etc. Motion, right? Who goes in motion? Have different names for them. Level of the back, fib, formation in the boundary, right? And we have a simple yes or no for that. Quarterback run. Is it a quarterback run play? Yes or no? All right, offensive play, obviously. The backside concept. Do they run to an attached tight end? Some games we fill it out. Sometimes, some games we don't. Play strength, strong or weak, right? Play direction, right or left. And again, not all these do we fill out. Certain games you need them, certain ones you don't. Play direction. What's the RPO? Okay, they're running RPO. They're going to go inside zone. Great. Well, what's the concept? So as a play name, we would call that, we code that as a run inside zone. But what's the RPO pass concept? Is it hitches? Is it fade out? Is it a bang 8? What is it? All right. What gap did they run in? A, B, C, D, E. What's the protection? We have ours labeled most as numbers. We have some names in there. Play tree. I told you about this at the beginning. This is an awesome one. Boot, drop back, draw, gaps, gadget, man, option, play action, etc. All right. Offensive strength, penalty. What's the route thrown? Right. All right. Yeah. They called flood, but what route did they throw? Did they throw the out? Did they throw the intermediate? Did they throw the go or the post? Okay. Passing zone. Talked about that earlier. There's our star column. Where does he line up? All right. Who's the intended receiver? All right. Is it a tempo team? Do they go fast? Do they look? Do they go NASCAR? All right. Deep shot. All right. Shotgun. So a lot of special columns that kind of go into us breaking down an opponent. And again, we do not use all of them every single game. Certain ones are good for wing T teams. Certain ones are good for 10 personnel teams. Certain ones are good for 11 personnel teams. All right. And then the final thing I want to show you is the magic scripts. So when you go into huddle, you click on practice scripts very simply. So you just pick an opponent, create a practice plan. You'd go there. Now normally you'd be able to click magic script, and you have to have the right playlist in the right column. You click it, and it pops up. So here's what I got. This is our final game. Or I'll just go down to one earlier in the year. You click on the run, and here they are. You label them what you want. The labels will be pulled from huddle. You click on it. Then again, you color code them. You could put your defense where you want. Run plays. I put the schemes in. If it's an RPO team, you don't have to worry about some other stuff depending on what type of team they are. You give instruction. And a lot of this stuff I'll print these out, download these, and then they go right into go route. And that's where I can actually draw and label and give very, very specific instructions. All right. And then finally, this here again is kind of our hit chart. So again, I just go through every formation they ran. You can see there's a bunch of them here. And this is actually broken down towards the end after we had them done. But a lot of the one-offs, if they ran 5 formations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, probably not going to take those into much consideration. Because if they don't run them very often, that means they're probably not very good at them. So that's just kind of my thought process. Again, just kind of how we've been doing things, not necessarily the right way, just the way we've done them. I'm a big believer that teams are going to try to do something and do it well. So as a defense coordinator, we need to defend what they do well. And if they're trying to do things that they haven't shown to us, trying to be cute and do things that they didn't show on film, well, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be very good at them, and they're not going to do them very long. They'll still come back to what they're good at. So that's what we need to defend. So that's it. That's kind of the deal on game planning and developing a call sheet. Again, do the work up front, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The week gets easier, and then by game time, just like your kids, you'll be coaching fast, just like they're playing fast. Hi there, Eric Kasperowicz, Pinehurst High School, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Here to talk about defending spread, no huddle offenses in the 4-3 dynamic defensive system. I think as we all know, the spread, the no huddle has taken over football as we know it. I think everything's cyclical. Everything's going to eventually come back. We'll be seeing, 21 personnel sets here soon enough, I think, in the next few years. But for now, it's here to stay. So we got to be able to defend it. So that's what we're going to dive into today. If you follow the system along the way, we've kind of touched on this as we go on, but it's got some new things here, some good film, some good ideas. Hopefully you can implement in your system. Here in Pittsburgh, here in northeastern United States, southwestern Pennsylvania, it gets pretty cold. By about week 7, week 8 of a 16-game season, it's pretty cold. It's in the 50s, 40s, 30s, give or take on any given Friday. So, that affects the football a little bit. But we're a 10 personnel, 11 personnel spread team, and play our state championship games. Excuse me, in 20-degree weather, snow, and it still doesn't affect it. You still got to be able to line up and then defend it. That's where we're going to go in here today. Contact info. So why quarters? I'm a big believer that too high schemes are not passive in nature, right? You hear a lot of coaches say, too high, we're going to run the ball. If you don't, you should be fired. Well, I kind of disagree with that. It depends on how you teach it, how you set it up. But the schemes themselves mesh with a reactionary nature of defensive football, right? That's what defensive football is all about. We see, we got to react, and then we got to go out and perform. Staying balanced and adaptive, flexible, and structured. These are all keys to being successful on defense. All right. Here's some stats over the past few years. So since 2017 at Pine Richland. Not going to go into all this. You can look at this on your own a little bit. But here's all the totals in 5 or 6 of the top areas that I think are extremely important in defensive football. So points per game, obviously, at the end of the day, how many points are you giving up? All right, and a lot of these numbers, our number over the past 4 years is about 12 points a game. Some of them are skewed. We played a lot of games in the second half where we got our younger kids in and they're scoring some points. So I think that number is really probably around 7.5, maybe. But then this stat here, points per series. All right, again, what type of offense does your offense run? Right? If they're a ball control offense, you're going to see less series per game. All right, whereas where I'm at, and a lot of you guys are at, you have an up-tempo, no-huddle offense. What's tougher to play defense? I see probably 12 series per game in high school football. All right, and we average, I do that math, so go ahead and start taking that in consideration. And all the college football teams keep this stat so you can compare it to that, but we're at 0.7 points per series. So every series we face, we give up 0.7 points, okay? How many yards? I'm not a big believer in tracking yards, so we average about 200 yards over the past 4 years a game, because I'll give up as many yards as I really don't care. It's just all about the points. All right, we'll give up the yards, but I don't give up the points. But we track it, 92 rushing yards, and you can see we really had our best year this year versus the rush, about 114 pass. And then takeaways, we average about 30 takeaways per game. You can see how they've won over the years. So that's what we've done. Now, a couple of defensive musts when you're playing spread no huddle teams. There's some things that I think you got to do. You got to be smart. They got to be must-haves, or else you're going to get kind of exposed pretty easily, because that's what these spread teams, these no huddle teams, try to take advantage of. They take advantage of grass, right? Where's the grass, right? To the wide side of the field. Do they have numbers on you? All right, and then leverage. That's the 3 things. Grass, where's the grass? That's where they want to get the ball. Leverage. Do they have leverage on you? Do they have an angle on you? All right, and then numbers. Do they have trips and you only have 3 guys out there, 3 on 3? They like that. All right, so you always got to be aware of those 3 things. You talk to any spread coach in the country, grass, leverage, and numbers is what they're looking to get. So on defense, we must have great eye discipline. All right. And I got film here in the next couple clips to kind of defend this a little bit. But great eye discipline offenses nowadays, with all the window dressing, shifts, motions, unbalanced sets, play action, blah, 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 whatever you want to call it. Eye candy nowadays is prevalent. So we got to have great eye discipline if we want to play great defense. Number 2, we want to pressure the offense. Again, I'm not going to sit back and let them dictate it to me. I don't want to come out in the football game and see an offense, doing all this crazy stuff. They're shifting, they're motioning, they're controlling the game. Now, all right, I'm going to take it to them. I'm going to pressure them. I'm going to have calculated pressures. All right, we're going to create takeaways, things, and we practice it. We practice that all the time because I think that's things you can control. But I want to control the game. All right, I don't want a coordinator on offense running the show. All right, I want to take it to them, play the ball in other words, in my court. All right, in my tempo, at my pace. All right, if he's controlling the pace, we're going to be in for a long night. All right, we want to defend formations. All right, take away what they do best. We do a formation recognition period every single day. All right, we call it FAA, formation, alignment, and assignment. All right, got that off a coach nearby. Thought it was awesome because I think getting aligned is half the battle. It's probably more than half the battle. All right, I could put Division I talent out there in my field backer, and he'd play pretty good, we'd assume. Or I could put a kid out there that isn't going to sniff playing a down of college football out there, and if I can get him aligned and he knows what he's doing and he's got a little bit of toughness, I think we could be all right in most cases. Okay, so getting aligned is very, very important. And then finally, kind of goes with defending formations. We want to take away their best players, right? We want to defend their best players. They have a great offense, and their running back is the star of their offense, and they go through him. Well, I'd be damned if that guy's going to beat us that night. If he does, great. I'll shake his hand. He was better than us. We did the best we could to take him away. But if he does, and there was reasons why we could have defended him differently based on scheme, based on different things like that, well, then shame on me. All right, make them beat me some way else. Don't let their star player beat you. If you can have a say. All right, so here's a couple clips. This first clip here. So again, you see the window dressing. Just a simple, fly motion, jet sweep, trying to create a fib formation into the boundary post snap. So again, from a 2-high structure, that's pretty easy for us. There's not a lot of moving around. If you're a 1-high team, you got to roll down, you got to spin, all that good stuff. We can line up and get set up to this pretty easily. But avoiding the eye candy, the window dressing, and still being able to play our normal defense. All right, we do a really good job of it here, and get the second down. Next little clip here, kind of my second tab in that previous slide was we want to pressure the offense. All right, this is 3rd down and 2. Early in the game, I believe this is the first drive of the state championship this past year. They got into a heavy set. This is what we call a 30 personnel set. That's 3 backs, no tight ends. All right, and they had a tendency they were going to run certain plays out of this. They throw it as well. But we brought some pressure, and we created a turnover, and that kind of goes to the next thing. This is something that we practice all the time. Coming off an edge, this is a drill that we practice once per week throughout the season. Right there, wrapping, hitting the ball out of the player's hands, and then we work on recovering it. All right, what type of ball is that right there? We call it a city or a country ball, right? We call it a dirty ball or a clean ball. All right, that right now is a dirty ball. There's people all around, right? All kind of orange shirts. We're in the green. All right, dirty ball, you fall on it. Clean ball, we want to scoop and score. We want to be very, very aggressive. Other people call it city and country. Is that a city? Yeah, kind of people around following it. Country ball, that ball was out by around nobody else. Well, we want to scoop and score. All right, so create takeaways. All right, create takeaways. That just didn't happen. The guy didn't drop it. We practice, like I said, a turnover circuit where we bend, we run the hoop, we come around, the ball's there, we're coming through as we're making a good tackle. Then we're getting our hand on the football, causing a big turnover there early in the game in the first drive. All right. Here's a good end zone angle of it. Number 7 right here coming off the edge. Boom. Gets his arm across, arm on the football. All right, 3rd and 2. And we get the takeaway. All right. Here's another one, again, kind of defending, what they do best. They had a very prolific quarterback, and they had a tendency down in the red zone. They're in a 11 personnel set where they run a lot of bootleg or waggle. All right, so we had a tendency where we knew we had a good idea that they were going to run their inside zone here, or they were going to run a bootleg off of it. All right, so we ran a little stunt here where we were going to slant into the zone, and we we're going to bring our backer off the edge. So if they did run their bootleg down in the red zone in the goal line area, which they had a high tendency to do, that we'd have a guy in his face. And that's kind of what happened here. 4th down and 3. I believe we had a 21-point lead this time, but this is the first drive of the second half that could get them right back into the game. But again, number 8 comes off the edge there, gets in the quarterback's face, does a good job, and then gets the sack in a very critical situation in the game. All right, next thing here. So some other kind of tips, some musts. We want to stop the run on first down. You know, when it comes to spread offenses, when it comes to no-huddle football teams, you've heard terms like oxygen plays, right? You've heard terms like gift routes. We talked about grass and leverage and numbers and all that stuff. Well, that all equates to stopping them on first down. All right, they're going to come up, and if they have an uncovered receiver, they're going to throw it out there. If they have leverage on you, they're going to fake it and they're going to throw it out there. All right, that's an extension of their run game, right? Throwing a bubble, throwing a quick screen. Those are extensions of the run game. And if you talk to any spread offensive coordinator, they're going to say, we'll take that all day. We'll take a 4-yard gain and we'll be on the ball 2nd and 6. They're able to go tempo and get going. So how do you get them out of that? Well, you stop them on first down, right? So I'm a big believer in doing some things on first down to get them in 2nd and 10. So it all goes back to what I talked about before about now I'm in control, right? It's my move. I'm dictating the tempo, not you. Because if you get in 2nd and 10, or 2nd and 4, 2nd and 6, now they're rolling. All right, now they're feeling comfortable. They're calling their game. If I can keep them in 2nd and long, keep them kind of off schedule, then I think we're in a better situation. All right, we're going to fly to the football, right? End of story. Again, not rocket science, defensive football. Everybody talks about running to the ball. Well, what do you do to preach it? You know, we do a pursuit drill every single practice of the whole stinking year, right? And it's not just, you know, hey, run this way, turn and run to the ball. No, we have a very distinct drill that we do where we turn and run to certain spots. We do a pursuit drill. We do a blitz pursuit drill. We do a screen pursuit drill, which I think is awesome. And again, I tailor those to who we're playing a certain week. You know, if we're going to blitz a certain week a lot, well, you know, maybe we'll do that one more. Maybe a team doesn't screen that week, or we're not going to do our screen pursuit drill. All right, we'll do our regular one. So make sure you're practicing that. Use great fundamentals, block destruction. You talk to, again, any offensive coach in America that's worth a crap on offense, especially in the spread world, they work on blocking on the perimeter. Well, you better believe as a defensive coach with my field corner, my other corner, my field backer, we're going to work block destruction about every day too. If they're working on blocking us, we got to work on getting off blocks, right? Whether that's a rip, whether it's a strike and snag. We have 2 or 3 techniques that we teach our kids to get off the ball or get off the block. We want to be very simple in what we do because, again, they're going fast. If we're not simple, we ain't going to have a chance. And if we can't get lined up, it's going to be a long, long day. So we want to be very simple, but then be able to be multiple within that simplicity. All right. Again, we don't huddle. They're not huddling. We're not huddling. So we just make a habit of we don't huddle. All right. Everything we do is like a no huddle offense. You know, we try to have as many one-word calls as we can. We try to have as many checks as we can. Everything is done through hand signals, but we got to be great communicators on the back end, you know, and the front 7. And again, kind of takes me to that last thing, what I just talked about, communication, hand signals. There's a very specific order of communications, you know, that comes in. And then within the defense, there's roles for certain people. The defensive line's in charge of a few things. The linebackers are in charge of a few things, and the secondary is in charge of a few things. So, for instance, D-line, we have them set the front, and I'll get to that in a minute. That way the linebacker's not worrying about, you know, where's the tight end or where's this passing strength, or the D-line does it. So the linebacker, now he can worry about things that we talked about all week, maybe like back placement or splits of the offensive line, things like that are helping him figure out where the ball's going. So here's a couple clips here now. So this is 1st down and 10. Again, state championship game, midfield. I can't quite remember if they started the drive here, or if they got a first down or two already, but it's 1st and 10. Again, they're a spread team. They went tempo. Wasn't full time, but they were definitely a tempo team. But it all goes back to stopping them on first down. All right, so whether that's a pressure, a run stunt, or a run blitz, being able to stop them on first down and get them in 2nd and long, I think is critical in your success on defense, especially versus no huddle football teams. You know, the school thought is, yeah, we got to get off the field on 3rd down. Well, yeah, great. But if you're in a lot of 3rd and 2s, a lot of 3rd and 1s, your percentages aren't going to be very good. If you're in 3rd and 6 plus, I think my percentages are going to be a lot higher. So we ran a simple double A gap stunt, double A gap pressure versus zone scheme, and we got a nice little run through right there. Next clip, this is just kind of showing running to the football. All right, so this is balls into the on the left hash there. They're running a simple GF counter. All right, we spill the football, and within our front 7, front 8 guys fly into the football. And you can see early on kind of taking their path that we coach them up on, getting to their spots. But again, we talk about this a lot by flying to the football. We don't worry about missing tackles. For instance, our DN dove, missed them. Our linebacker missed him, fell off. But we got other guys running to the football, just creating that aggressiveness and getting to the football. All right, a little bit about, again, same deal here. I'm sorry, running to the football, jet sweep. We bubble the ball out. They're trying to reach everybody. Guys missing, but it doesn't matter because we got 7 or 8, 9 other teammates getting to the football. All right, now we talk about block destruction. So this is a simple little RPO inside zone, bubble to the top. All right, I want you to keep an eye on this backer right here. All right, regardless of the scheme we're playing, all right, his fits outside in if possible. He'll be inside out, and he'll be top down. That field backer does a good job of being thick through the blocker. All right. Needs to be decisive. Right? Because right there, he's decisive. He's outside the blocker. That tells these two where to fit. When this guy's not decisive and he's outside and then he peeks in and then he peeks back out, that makes it hard for these other guys running to the ball. Be decisive in where you're fitting. There's another picture, very similar deal. I believe this is another bubble to the field. All right, again, similar deal. We're going to watch this guy right here, the field backer. All right, he knows it, he sees it, he diagnoses it. He takes this on with physicality. All right, there's our strike. All right, extend. Make sure he shows the people behind him, shows the shirts behind him where his leverage is at. All right, he's outside. These two can fit inside. And we get a negative yard play on a bubble. Now, doesn't always work out that good. I'm not a guy that puts all just good stuff on the tape. Here's a clip of where we didn't do it so well. So again, early on, what I talk about, leverage. All right, they have a 2-back set. We're apex. The minute they fast motion, we are out leveraged now. All right, this guy's got an angle on us. So our backer didn't do a good enough job of winning back that leverage and making a clear picture for those two other guys running to the ball. His block destruction here wasn't great. All right, he let the blocker get into him. Now, albeit, I believe we do get a flag here. He is holding him. But you can see how just being indecisive, not getting off the block, I would have rather seen just a pure rip and run, force that ball back inside. So at least we got a safety down and a linebacker inside running to it. You can see right there, if he runs, we have a safety right here to fit, plus here. I think, we'd at least hold him to a 3-4 yard gain. But the indecisive now gives that guy a 2-way go. Now, it was a holding call, but still not what we want. All right, on to the next thing. Some pre-snap movement, I think, again, offenses that are going fast, they come out, they get certain looks. Quarterbacks are taught how many safeties, and that's based on what they're going to do with the ball. All right, what's the front? 4 down. Okay, over front. Boom, now they're going to run the ball to the shade or they're going to run the ball to the bubble. So if we sit there static as a defense, I think you're at a huge disadvantage, right? I think you got to move. I think you got to mix things up. Pre-snap movement with your defensive line, stemming. All right, I think you got to give different looks. You can't always. We're an even front. We're going to be a 4-down over front. That's what we are. And 80% of the game, 80% of regular downs, we're going to be in an over front. But we'll stem. We'll pre-snap move. We'll post-snap move. We'll show an odd front. We'll show a 5-man front. We'll show a 3-man front. All right, but we could always end up back in that over front at the end of the day. But if you think about how offenses practice, what's Pine Richland play? They're 4-3. They're an over front. Well, that's the look they're going to practice all week long. So if you come out on a Friday and give them that look that they practice, then shame on you. All right. So I think you got to do things to change that look up. All right. I talked about pre-snap disguise, pre-snap movement, linebackers moving in and up and back, your outside backers moving out and in, your DBs, your safeties, your corners. Again, just presenting different looks at different times. And it's not just random. It's not haphazard. There's ways within your system to build that in. For instance, if you have a call, hey, well, maybe we're going to show press and we're going to bail. We're going to be off and we're going to press. We're going to be in an under front stem to an over front. You got to figure that out amongst yourselves. But I think the more you do that, the better chance you give yourself. All right, so here is there's a little pre-snap stem. Now it's a little bit earlier than I would have liked. All right, we usually try to get an indicator. You see the quarterback claps. So ideally we would have waited another second. But there's a pre-snap stem there you can see from the end zone copy. Again, they come out, they're running counter. Now all of a sudden they made their calls, we stemmed, and now their calls change. Right? So it's just a nice simple thing that's very inexpensive for us to put in. But now, that team that was practicing versus that certain defense, that certain front all week, now it's changed. All right. Now, auto checks, these are things that, we've done a lot of recently in the past 4 or 5 years. I think you have to have these. You call them auto checks. You call them one-word calls. They got to be built in because offenses, if they're going fast, if they're not huddling, the days of you changing and yelling and screaming and checking to this and checking to this, good luck in getting all 11 guys on the same page. You have to have built-in calls. If they come on this, we're going to do this. And if they do this, we're going to do this. For example, maybe you call 41. Hey, we're going to play cover 4 unless they come out in trips. Then we're going to play cover 1. All right, or whatever your deal is, you got to have that built in. And maybe it's based on where the fullback lines up. If the fullback lines up wide, we're going to play cover 4. If he lines up tight, maybe we're going to roll down and play a strong rotation and bring a linebacker. So stuff like that. I think the more you can do, the better off you'll be in building in a lot of those calls. Your defensive line, like I mentioned earlier, just again with helping with the tempo, not putting it all in the linebacker because again, if teams are going fast, you can't expect the linebacker to set the front, make the call, take the passing strength call, plus recognize some tips that are going to let him know where the football's at. So we have our defensive line set the front, all right? And again, that kind of changes weekly depending on where we're going to set that front. But we have very detailed alignments within our defensive line, right? Sometimes they're going to line up tighter, a little wider, a little looser, a little on the ball, off the ball, etc. Back placement, level 1, level 2. Is he wide? Is he tight? Is it gun strong? Is it gun weak? All those things mean something. All right, don't think for a second that offense coordinators allow their kids to line up randomly. They're very, very specific on where they want their kids to line up. All right, and then wide receiver alignments. Study it. Why is number 2 on the ball in this play, but he's off the ball in other plays? Now, some teams will allow him to switch. Some teams will do it randomly, but for the most part, most teams are going to do it for a very specific reason. All right. All right. On the next thing, finally, verse 3 by 1. I think verse empty, verse stacks, verse bunch, verse motion. You got to have some adjustments, kind of being ready to go, being ready to handle those things. Because again, that's what you're going to see in a lot of these spread offenses, and you have to have some answers. And we'll get on the film here in a second to check some of this out. But 3 by 1, I think you need some different ways to play it. Cover 1, cover 2, whatever it is. Don't defend areas where they're not going to throw it, right? Spread offenses are notorious for never throwing to the field number 1 receiver, right? We all know that. So be smart in the coverages you play. All right, verse empty, what are you going to do? What are they trying to do? Are they going to throw screens? Are they going empty to run it? Are they throwing RPO, quarterback draw, RPO combos? Do they stack the receivers? What are they going to do when they stack them? Why are they doing it? Are they trying to empty the box to clear it up to get a good picture? Or are they putting them out there to throw it to them? All right. And then versus bunch and then all the motions you're going to see. You have to have a plan for all that, obviously. So first up, we're going to look at is 3x1. All right. And I got a couple clips of each of these. We actually pause this and go back. So 3x1, I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways that we've played 3x1. All right, prevalently. So again, a team really can't get a bead on what we're coming out and what we're playing. This first one is actually one of our hot coverages. So this is 1st and 10. They go a little play action pass, but we're playing 3 deep, 2 under to this. We're able to get pressure. All right, they are running a 6-man pro, I believe. All right, but they can't pick them up, and we're getting pressure, and we get an incompletion. So it's 2nd and 10. So 3 deep, 2 under, hot coverage there. Here's an end zone copy. Kind of fast forward a little bit. So we missed the sack, but nonetheless we get the throw away. Second way we play, we're playing a version of cover 3 to the field and a version of cover 2 to the boundary. All right, so again, 3x1. What's Pine Richland going to come out in? Again, this is all very specific to the formation they're in and to the tendencies they have. It's not just random. All right, but you got to figure out what do they do, why do they do it, and what are you going to run to stop it? All right, so again, a cover 3 variation to the field and a little cover 2 to the boundary. Looks like they were trying to throw a slant or maybe a curl route on the backside there, and we had 3 over 2, and we were in good shape. And again, force the pressure and the scramble. All right, here's cover 0. So here again is us bringing 6, but we're playing 0 behind it. So we're bringing double edge pressure. All right, and we're playing cover 0 behind it. Again, a change up, 4th down and 1. We're bringing pressure, forcing it on and making them, get rid of the ball right now. They can't really pick up the pressure, and we get a timely sack. All right, next way. This is out of our 3 down front, but on the back end, again, they motion to 3x1. All right, so we were in 1 coverage there. They motion over. We check to, I believe it's a version of cover 2 all over. Now, we do different things with cover 2, with the middle hole and whatnot. But again, just showing some versatility that I think versus 3x1, you have to have different ways to play it. You can't just sit there and say, hey, we're going to play this defense 3x1, because there's too many things offenses can do, especially no huddle offenses, to defeat that. All right, this team was doing a bunch of shifting pre-snap. I believe we're playing cover 1 to this. Didn't do a good enough job of disguising, but end of the day, we're playing cover 1, a little outside leverage catch technique, right? The man-to-man aspect right there, wherever he wanted to go with the ball, we were in pretty good shape. We were manned up there, we were manned up there, manned up there, manned up there. We had our 1 high, we have our low rat. Force the pressure, get them to run around a little bit, and 1 yard gain. And one other way, again, this is just a different version that we play. It's a version of cover 3 up here, and down here we're playing a version of man. With our backside safety, he's there able to poach 3 at times, depending on game plan, what we have him do. So again, just kind of showing that you got to have different ways to play it. Oh, and one other way. So we actually played a cloud corner to the field. All right, so we're playing a version of cover 2 here, and we're playing a version of quarters back here. All right, so a little combination coverage. Most of the stuff we do is split field. All right, but we're playing a hard corner to the field, and again, just keeping them off balance. Who's our force player, etc. So now on to empty. Again, very prevalent set. We have a bunch of ways we can play empty. I think I have 4 different ways here. So again, empty. First thing you got to ask yourself, you got to think like an offense coordinator, is what are they trying to do to you? All right, so the first one here, we did a little stunt up front here, a little outlaw stunt where we tackles out. We had our ends looping in, again, protecting, muddying up the front a little bit. And on the back end, you could play whatever coverage you want. Here we were playing, looks like a version of cover 2. They get a completion. but we're able to rally up on 1st and 10 and get them, 5-yard gain or less. And in this situation, I think it was towards the end of the half, but nonetheless, I'm okay with that. All right, 3rd down and 8. So they go empty. They go formation to the boundary. A different way we're playing it. We're going to play a version of 3 here, and over here we're manned up this time. All right, and we're bringing 5. So we've got a 5-man pressure. We're playing zone to the field and man to the boundary. So again, a split field coverage. And we get an incompletion. Another way, so this is empty. This is more of a heavy empty set. They have an attached tight end and a wing. All right, with 3 receivers. All right, we're just playing our base quarters to this. All right, and there's some tricks to it you have to take care of versus empty, but nonetheless, we're playing a base defense, our base quarters of this, and, again, get off the field there. And then finally, one other way, this is a different stunt. We run a field tech, so we bring and loop him through. All right, bring our tackle, B-gap contain. We're going to loop our end back underneath, and then we're playing cover 2 to the field. So this works out well where our press corner, our cover 2 corner is able to trigger right now and keep them for a very minimal gain there. All right, stacks. A couple ways to play stacks. I believe we have 2 ways that we kind of, did this year. We don't see this too often. I think we only saw 14 snaps of stacks this past season. All right, but this first one here looks like we're playing our base quarters, but you can see the communication between the safety in the corner and the safety in the corner. What are we going to do? How are we playing this? All right, there's a couple different ways they can play a zone, a me and a you, a tango. Some people call, if he goes in, I'll take the guy coming in, first cutter, etc. There's ways where, maybe the safety or the corner would come up and press. Hey, I'm going to press him. You're going to have him wherever he goes. Hey, I'm going to press him, but I'm going to take the guy behind him. There's lots of ways to handle that. You just got to practice it and have a plan. All right, so you can see here back to the beginning. Watch your communication. Watch 5 communicating. They're making their call. Hey, me and you. I believe up top, same thing occurred. Watch our corner number 3. Hey, we got a stack. He gave him a signal. They're talking, and we're ready to go. All right, there's some wide stacks. So we're going to play cover 1 to this. So again, showing 2 high. He's going to roll to the middle of the field. We have our 6-man box. All right, we're man, and we're man. How they play the man's up to them. Down here we have our falcon pointing up the point man, and he's going to have the secondary guy. Over here, the corner has his guy, and he's going to take the guy behind him. Again, you can change that up, play it however you like. I think you just have to have different versions. And then finally, bunch. Again, just having some answers. This first way was they go formation to the boundary. I think we just 2nd and 10, we made a pure cover 2 check to the bunch. So our corner, we had a hard corner to the boundary. Nonetheless, it doesn't affect us. They run a reverse back here to the field. And we get a nice tackle there by our corner. But point is, just having some different ways. The next snap here. So again, teams that would have it on film, hey, when they come on bunch, they're playing cover 2. Now all of a sudden they're bunch. Now we're going to play a version of, looks like we're playing a version of our cover 3 now where our backer is going to come up. And these 2 players could, tango, play their third, however you want to play it. But again, it's just a different look, a different point man, a different support guy to the field there. So that's that. Again, no huddle spread, teams, all the rage. To defend it, I think you got to think like an offensive coach. You got to think like a no huddle offensive coach. You got to have your defense ready. They got to be able to get lined up, all right, know the call, all right, and understand what their job is before that ball snapped. All right, if you could do that, then you got a chance. If any one of those 3 things don't occur, the offense is going to have the advantage because, again, they're looking for grass, they're looking for leverage, all right, and they're looking for numbers. So you give them any of them, they're going to take them. They want those oxygen plays. They want to be able to dink and dunk you, and then eventually they get their fast guys the ball in space. If you're not great at block destruction, if you're not running to the football, all the things I kind of talked about here, then it's going to probably be a long night for you. Just like any brand of ball, it comes down to the Jimmies and the Joes. But if you can have them lined up, knowing what they're doing, playing fast on defense, then I think you'll have an advantage to shut these no huddle offenses down.